We had no knowledge of the history of the house before the happenings and the events started.
My house!
The second movie in the Conjuring universe takes place in Brimstown, Enfield, London in 1977. A single mother and her 4 children are terrorized by an evil entity. The Warrens are called in to investigate the strange occurrences, but just how accurate is the movie? The Hodgson family, Peggy, and her 4 children, Margaret, Janet, Johnny, and Billy, live together in a council house. It's like public housing here in the U.S. at 284 Green Street. Just like it's portrayed on the big screen, most of the paranormal activity centers around Janet, although in real life, Margaret was also a frequent target. What began on a normal night in 1977 would last almost 18 months, but for the Hodgson family, the memories would last a lifetime.
This racket started to occur in the back bedroom and some disturbance. And my mum came into the room and she said, "Johnny and Janet, pack it up and sleep. You've got to get up in the morning." And the chest of drawers near the wall and the door had slid into sort of the doorway.
Peggy tried to move the dresser away from the door, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if some unseen force, which had been holding the dresser, suddenly let go. The family, terrified, ran to their neighbors, the Nottinghams. Vic Nottingham went over to investigate. He says he heard strange noises too.
We'd been sitting listening to the knocking, and the woman next door, she called me in. We couldn't make out what it was. I heard the knocking as I walked in the front door, but I went all over the house, checked it, checked the walls, checked everything. Just couldn't make out what it was. So in the end, I thought to myself, well, there's only one thing. I'll call the police.
2 officers arrived and went inside to investigate. They found no one in the home, although one of the officers says while they were there, a chair moved on its own.
It came off the floor, or nearly a ½ inch, I should say, and I saw it slide off to the right, about 3.5 to 4 feet before it came to rest. I checked to see whether or not it could possibly have slid along the floor. I placed a marble on the floor to see whether or not the marble would go in the same direction as the chair did, and it didn't roll at all. I checked for wires under the cushion of the chair, and I could find no explanation at all.
The officers were unnerved, but ultimately decided it was not a matter for the police to handle. The incidents continued. At a loss for what to do next, Vic called the Daily Mirror to report the strange occurrences. A reporter came out to the residence, but after witnessing nothing out of the ordinary for hours, the reporter was just about to leave when something happened. A Lego came flying at him and struck him right above the eye. The mark, according to Janet, was still visible a few days later. The Daily Mirror called the Society for Psychical Research. The SPR sent Maurice Gross to the home to conduct a formal investigation. If LinkedIn had been a thing in the 70s, Maurice Gross's would have been extensive. He was educated at the Regent Street Polytechnic in London. He went on to serve an apprenticeship in commercial art and design. Gross served in World War II with the Royal Artillery and was among those evacuated from Dunkirk in June 1940. In 1941, he was responsible for guarding the welfare of Italian prisoners of war, a position he held until the end of the war. In 1944, he married Betty Yassini. The couple had 3 children together, 2 daughters and a son. After the war, Maurice became an inventor. In 1945, he filed his first of many mechanical patents. His invention of the rotating advertising billboard is his most successful invention. Maurice founded his own design and engineering consultancy business in 1961, which is responsible for launching many successful patents throughout the world. In August 1976, his daughter Janet was killed in a motorcycle accident. After her death, the Gross family experienced several psychic events and coincidences. Searching for answers, Maurice Gross joined both the Society for Psychical Research and the Ghost Club. It's been widely reported that Mr. Gross believed it was no coincidence he was asked to investigate what would later be known as the Enfield Poltergeist. Maurice believed, at least initially, his daughter Janet was trying to communicate with him through Janet Hodgson. Gross wasn't the only person conducting the investigation into the alleged paranormal activity. Writer Guy Lyon Playfair, Anita Gregory, and John Beloff were also part of the team sent by SPR. Members of the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, which included stage magicians Milbourne Christopher and Joe Nickel, investigated the claims as well. Maurice Gross says he personally witnessed over 2,000 incidents of supernatural activity. One incident is when Janet appears to levitate off of her bed. However, the most infamous incident is a recording of Janet speaking in a voice not her own.
I come from doing that for a job, and I have right in the church where Rena lives, and all my friends come from there as well. We all make a day and go to the pub, and then I used to live here, and I will tell you them all. And if you don't get anyone else, just let me talk and Mr. Blair.
I want you to tell me whether you remember what happened to you when you died. Just before you died and just after you died.
Just before I died, I went blind. Then I had an hemorrhage, and I fell asleep, and I died in a chair in the corner downstairs.
Janet spoke in this gruff voice many times, and the scene in the movie of her doing it with water in her mouth is accurate. The activity at one point turned dangerous when a curtain wrapped itself around Janet's neck.
Like the curtain which wrapped itself around my neck, which was quite lifelike.
For the most part, the scenes of paranormal activity that occurred in the home on Green Street are portrayed accurately. There is one thing that is not. This entity is fictionalized for the movie, but is based on a real demon. Valak does not appear as a nun, but is said to appear as a child with angel wings riding a 2-headed dragon. This demon is the Grand President of Hell and commands a legion of demons. Valak is blamed for the Children's Crusade of 1212 and the Pied Piper incident of 1284. The crusade, believed to be inspired by messages and visions from Jesus, encouraged thousands of young people, including children, to peacefully convert Muslims in the Holy Land. It was unsuccessful and resulted in many deaths, while the survivors were sold into slavery. It's a mixture of historical fact and legend. The Pied Piper incident of 1284 is also a mix of legend and historical fact that took place in the town of Hamelin, Germany. As the story goes, a man appeared in Hamelin and promised to rid the town of its rats for a fee. The mayor agreed to pay the man 1,000 guilders. The piper played his pipe. The rats were lured into the Weser River, where they drowned. When the man went to collect his fee, the mayor refused to pay him. The piper returned to the town, but this time he was dressed as a hunter. When he played his pipe again, the children were lured into a cave in a mountain where they disappeared. Historians believe what may have actually happened to the children was they immigrated to a better life, they were part of the Children's Crusade, or they died in the Black Plague. Citizens in the town erected 2 stone monuments on Poppenberg, the mountain where the children disappeared. The Hodgsons were not terrorized by a demon who took the appearance of a nun, but they were being terrorized by a spirit who was not at rest. This part of the film is portrayed pretty accurately as well, minus the whole demon-nun thing, obviously. During his investigation, Maurice Grosse recorded several interactions with the spirit who would later identify himself as Bill Wilkins.
I'm invisible.
I'm invisible.
You're invisible? Why are you invisible?
So I'm G-H-O-S-T.
Because I'm a G-H-O-S-T. Yes, he had quite a sense of humour. He also used to swear a lot as well.
Bill Wilkins is a real person who did live in the home before the Hodgson family. According to official records, William and his wife Ethel lived at 284 Green Street from at least 1961 to 1964, but probably long before that. In 1965, the home is then registered to Anthony and Margaret Hodgson. Mr. Wilkins did die in the home according to his death certificate. His death is listed as having occurred on June 20th, 1963. His cause of death was coronary thrombosis, which is a blood clot blocking an artery. Mr. Wilkins is buried in the cemetery at Durant's Park. While in the film, Ed and Lorraine Warren play a prominent role in helping the Hodgson family, the truth is their involvement was to a much lesser degree than the film portrays. Most articles on the Enfield Poltergeist investigation don't mention the Warrens at all. According to Guy Lyon Playfair, in the summer of 1978, Ed and Lorraine showed up uninvited to the residence and only stayed for one day. Brian Dunning said, quote, Ed Warren tried to persuade Playfair that money could be made from this case by writing books and selling movie rights, and then the Warrens left. Some people believe that because the film purports to be based on the case files of Ed and Lorraine, that their limited involvement is evidence that the Warrens themselves aren't credible. While it's true that one major story arc is the battle between the demon nun and the Warrens, without that part in the story, the role they played in helping the family would be diminished. Personally, I think the film is a good compromise between fact and fiction. The Nun was used to open the door for future projects that the Warrens aren't portrayed in. The Nun 1 and 2 don't feature the Warrens at all. Like the Annabelle movies, they're standalone, offshoots. Well, except Annabelle Comes Home. The Warrens are in that movie for 3.5 minutes, maybe even 4, because otherwise their daughter Judy would be in a whole Max and Ruby situation, and that only works for children's shows.
What happened wasn't good. I needed to help them.
Ed and Lorraine come to the house. To me, it felt like some sort of comfort had arrived for the first time.
In the film, there's a scene that depicts paranormal activity occurring in the kitchen. After everything settles down, the team checks the video and discovers Janet is the one behind the destruction. This did happen, although Janet didn't destroy an entire kitchen. She was, however, caught bending spoons and trying to bend an iron bar. Just like in the movie, Anita Gregory believed Janet was faking for the benefit of the media and it was all a hoax. To this day, Janet harbors resentment towards Anita.
Anita Gregory, I've always despised her, resented her because she said it was a complete fake. No one could fake something like that. They'd have to be a very good 11-year-old actor.
I was in my early 20s. I was a photographer on the Daily Mirror, covering anything, everything. News, sport, fashion, you name it, I shot it. Janet was brought in, and as she came into the room, suddenly things just took off. Wherever Janet was, it just seemed to happen. Kids are kids, they'll do funny little things for attention, but not the things that we were seeing, we were witnessing there. They couldn't have done those things. They weren't even in the same room at the time. So, no, I quite believe what I was watching was genuine.
While Grosse and Playfair concede the girls did fake some incidents, They both maintained the paranormal activity they witnessed and documented was real, and that there was an entity haunting the house. Janet herself has said that the sisters did fake some things. She says it was only about 2% of the incidents. Janet maintains that she was possessed by the spirit of Bill Wilkins. According to Janet, the activity calmed down after a priest visited the home in 1978. It never stopped completely, though, and Peggy still heard noises from time to time. Billy, who lived in the home until Peggy passed away, says that you always felt like you were being watched. During filming, Margaret and Janet were invited to the set. Lorraine reunited with the sisters. After Peggy Hodgson passed away, another family moved into the home. Claire Bennett, along with her 4 sons, moved into 284 Green Street. Claire reports having the same feeling that someone was always watching her. The children would be woken up during the night by voices coming from downstairs. Her son Shaka, who was 15 at the time, woke up and saw a man enter his room. That was the last straw for the Bennett family. They moved out the next day.